so we can talk about that, because we were here the other night and, more questions to be asked. I don't think Linda's gonna be here.
Okay.
She may call in, I'm not sure. She said she wasn't sure if she had a good connection.
Are we live, Diane? Okay. Cool. Okay, we'll go ahead and start the meeting. We're going to have a little work session here for the public's benefit. We're going to talk about the future of economic development. And I think we have a speaker tonight, and Rob is going to be able to answer any questions that we have to talk about how the city and the county may join in together. Go ahead.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. Actually, I'm just here to. Pete, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good? Okay.
Now it's on.
Is it on now? Okay. I'm just here to answer any follow-up questions. I gave my presentation the other night. Kind of talked about READY and the ability of us to provide economic development services for the city. More than what we've already done so far, and so I'm here to answer any questions that you might have, and for that concern. So.
We do not have a contract at this time because our attorney is sick. He's out. He will be out all week long, and so he's unable to review that contract. So we don't have a contract to review. So this would be general discussion on questions, comments, and concerns about how our relationship would be with READY. And the only thing Bedco READY, which is not affiliated with the county, they're not a county entity. They receive funds from the county to help support them, but they don't work for the county. They're a separate entity.
Sure.
Am I loud enough here? That's better. I'm sorry. So
is it okay for me to ask what funds you do receive from the county at this point?
Sure. The county gives Bedco READY $130,000, and then we received $125,000 from the county through the wind turbine funds. But those are being granted out to communities for projects such as bike trails, baseball fields, and things of that nature. So we're not using those for our organization. We're giving those out to the communities within the county.
So Rob, I'm kind of naive at this, but that $130,000 that the county gives, does that cover your wages in there also?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And so if the county is given $130,000,
yes, sir.
What if we join up with this? What are we looking to? What kind of monetary look are we at right now? Have we got a price that we're?
Yes. So we have budgeted $65,000 for 2022 to pay for consulting services, is what I would call it, in a contractual agreement with READY to provide us economic development services as well as some grant writing. We do not have an economic development director nor a grant person here on staff.
Can we touch base on the grant writing? I actually have a couple of questions. Are that okay?
Go ahead.
So the grant writing for whatever baseline fee, is that including the baseline fee, or once a grant is written, would you all be often the grant writer?
The baseline fee would cover that, Randy. There would be no percentage on top of the grant.
Okay. And then my other question, and Rob, we've kind of talked about this in the past, is a little more notice. I know you believe in pretty extensive strategic planning and actual strategic plans, and so I guess my question about that is how do we blend that? I mean, the city should have its awareness of what it thinks is important in terms of long-term strategic planning, but as an economic development professional, you should have a vision as well. So how exactly do we come together in terms of a long-term actionable economic development strategic plan?
Sure. Commissioner Nichols, I will say that
I'll go with Randy.
Okay, Randy. You guys have a strategic plan already that was conducted by Wagner back, actually it was made public in January of 2020. I believe it's part of the smart growth initiative that you guys are part of, and it actually was prepared for the city of Fort Scott and Bedco at the time. If you look at this strategic plan, you'll notice that in some of the areas where it'll say there's a lead and then the partners, there's a lot of places in here where Bedco is already listed as a partner in the work that's going to be completed for the strategic plan. Our recommendation now would be, since there's no economic development, and in some cases your community development officer as well, that you don't no longer have here, uh, that we would take on some of these roles where the lead was either community development or economic development, or in the case where it says partners like Bedco, economic development, those are obviously areas that we are already going to be partnering in, and so we would also take the lead on those as well and work through this strategic plan. So I guess the thought process that I had was, in some of these areas you have short-term time frames that aren't being currently completed, and so we would begin working on those immediately so that we could work and finish these short-term goals that are listed in this strategic plan, and then we would work into the midterm and long-term goals as well, and help the city reach these goals. Just for instance, looking at some of these, here's one. Improve public access to development regulations. Economic development is a partner in this. Make easy to understand zoning maps and user-friendly summary rules, regulations, land use maps, and development fees available publicly online at the city's website and in hard copies for distribution at City Hall. I'm sure this was done. If not, this would be something that we would help you on. In areas for Bedco that it lists for partners, along with economic development, community development, city manager as well. Create a downtown master plan. I believe you already have one of those, if I've been told correctly. Create property profiles for prime downtown redevelopment opportunities. I don't know if you already have a redevelopment plan for downtown, but these are just a few things I'm picking out of this strategic plan that you currently have that would have Bedco and economic development together, working together. So,
In the past, we donated to Bedco every year. Am I correct? What was the figure that we would donate every year to Bedco? $33,000. And on top of the 33,000, we had a economic development team also, right? So essentially, it's basically putting 30,000 on top of what we used to donate to Bedco as it was, and it would still be a savings.
it'd still be a savings compared to what you were paying as a salary. Yes, sir.
What were we paying before, Susan? Do you have those figures between everything that we would pay and put in that budget for economic development? Well, I'm just trying to figure out the cost savings. I mean, you don't have to give me an exact figure, but we would have money in that budget. Am I correct? In the past, did we would use the money taken from the rental on the First Source building, and then compile other monies with it, and we would. What was the typical 400,000 or something along those lines?
There wasn't quite that. You would generate about $162,000 in rent,
Right.
but from that rent, you would not.
Because I remember their rent was 15,000 a month or something.
So you would generate $162,000 from the first source rent, but then you would pay about $70,000 in taxes.
Right.
So, and then you'd pay about $33,000 to Bedco, and so there wasn't a whole lot left over to for grants or anything like that. I think we used some money for a downtown grant. So there was very little left over after you paid taxes and paid out to Bedco. And then in the general fund, you had an economic development department, and there was about roughly $130,000 in that budget, roughly. It looked a little inflated because you had CID payments running through there, And so we pulled all those out to really see what the accurate number was, and it was around 130,000, give or take. So you would be saving what, $60,000?
Mhm.
General
I,
fund.
I think Rob also mentioned the fact that they were going to try to depend on private contributions as well for the companies that are interested in
Yes, sir.
economic
The
development. And so
yes,
we're
sir.
not just dependent.
Pete, could you speak into the mic, please?
Am I not speaking loud enough?
I just can't hear you.
Okay.
How's
I
it
think
feel?
what we're looking at, the funding not only coming from the county and the city, but we're looking at funds coming from private enterprise who will be benefited by the economic development as well. Am I right on that?
Yes, yeah. What I would like to see, and the direction I'd like to see the organization go, is that at some point in time, we would be mainly funded by private enterprise, with less coming from public funds. But obviously, it's going to get time. It's going to take time to get there. So that's why we're asking at this point that the public side, which would be the county and the municipalities, fund a greater amount, and then let us to work or prove ourselves, throughout our work and our efforts to the public, or excuse me, the private entities, and then grow that. So yes, Pete, you're right.
I think you also mentioned the 2018 comprehensive plan as being a part of the program.
Yeah, yes,
And are we still with that?
yeah. That's. I think that's what. Is that what this is? I
No,
believe?
well, you mentioned that was the smart growth.
Yeah, the Fort Scott Strategic Implementation Program report. It's done by Wagner. But yeah, there's also a Highway 69 plan that.
Yeah, the corridor plan.
Yeah, the corridor plan that we're going to also take and use. And then obviously any of these plans are fluid. They're going to grow. They're going to change. And so obviously through our work and through our partnerships and communications with the cities, the counties, and just individuals within the community, we're going to, some of these might not end up not working, but it doesn't mean that we can't change those and go with the way it would, which would be better for the community and the organization in its whole. So yeah, we're going to be using plans already established as well as growing on our successes and throughout our time here.
Well, I think it's one more way that the county and the city show good faith in working together and getting to a better end goal as far as economic development and everything in general to make the whole community grow.
Sure.
So I think it's a great deal. Is there any more questions?
So Rob, I'm sorry. Is that,
Is there any more questions?
Yeah. Again, we've had conversation. I'm absolutely in favor of a really robust, vigorous economic development program, which I think you can supervise and guide. The two things you have, I think, one was a visioning committee that put together all the plan, which is great. Then the other was the strategic plan that was designed around that, if I understand. But the other thing I keep bringing up, because it also has access to outside dollars, which I'll be interested to hear what you say about that. But I'm still curious about the Smart Growth Program, since it is a community-driven program that guides some of the ideas and some of the priorities in your strategic plan. Plus, the people who do smart growth have access to federal dollars that would seem to be beneficial. And which is kind of the corollary to that is, in addition to the base fees that we all anticipate paying, do you see the city needing to commit other economic development dollars in order to accomplish the goals that or the ideas that you have that you're moving forward?
So are you asking if the city will at some point need to provide incentives or anything for economic development projects
Exactly, your grants, or you understand the financing much better than I. But
Sure.
Yeah, it seems to me like at times you have to supply monies in order to get money. So
yes, so the city would at some point in time, for instance, hypothetical, here we have a large manufacturing facility that's going to come to town. We're competing for that. Part of that might be the city putting in sewer systems or water lines or building a road. So yes, this would be asked and requested to put those things in to win that project. But that's very common in economic development that the city would donate or be a partner, a member of an organization such as mine, and then be in return at some time asked to provide more dollars to help win a project. Or
Absolutely. You know, I'll give you some examples, Rob, here in Fort Scott in the past that I know we contribute a lot to, and that was just one example would be Value Merchandise. When they wanted to come to town, we thought that'd be a good deal, and this is probably, I'm going to guess it was 25 years ago. The city of Fort Scott did every bit of the dirt work out there. I mean, they provided the dirt work. They did all kinds of in-kind services to get that company to come to town.
Yeah.
And it worked out good. They're still here. They still employ a lot of people.
Yep.
So a lot of times that, like you said, you got to spend some money to make money.
Sure.
And in-kind services is a great way to spend that money because we're getting it at a cut rate anyway. So.
Yep. So that's just an example, a hypothetical in that case. But and then when you talk about smart growth, yes, we will definitely be looking and using the smart growth opportunities that you have, being one of just 5 communities throughout the United States selected for that program. We will be obviously looking into that and working with those individuals, hopefully to bring more development into not just obviously Fort Scott, but into Bourbon County, because growth that happens within the county is good for all the county, including
Absolutely.
for Scotians and everyone outside. So
I'm glad to hear you, and you'll take the lead on that.
yeah, I'd be
Okay.
the lead on any economic development,
Well,
including working with smart growth
Yeah,
on those programs and projects.
I think I mean, these guys know in the long run, your involvement and growth of our tax base is what's going to keep us afloat. So.
Yeah. I mean, the ideal situation is we raise the revenues collected in both sales tax, and then we raise revenues in property tax by bringing in more individuals and more property, and therefore we then can in turn lower the mill, which we all want lower property taxes. So
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mark, did you have something on that?
I do. The city has already been working with Ready and Bedco. I say it the other way. Ready, Bedco, Rob has been working with us in regards to bringing entities into town. And they're not at any point where they can talk really or announce. But, one of them obviously is Noble Health. And that's a very positive thing if it will take place. To be able to reopen a hospital is a huge thing, and so that's a very big step that they've taken. And so I think we already work with Ready Bedco well.
Right.
Bedco is not the Bedco of years ago, all new board, and so I think it's a new direction, a new system, a person there that's heading it up. I looked at the records of Bedco, and they haven't had an economic development person hired and working for them since maybe 2000 or 2001.
Right. Yeah.
So they haven't actually had that. So the board and maybe Steve Berge was functioning in that point.
Steve was.
Yeah.
He would still, be the controller of the funds, and he would still,
Yes.
divvy it out the way it needed to be. But it had become kind of a silent board. They weren't meeting all the time. It wasn't
Right.
as the word was used, vigorous earlier. Now we want to be more vigorous. We want to go out there. There's monies available all over the place, and there's projects, and people want to come to this community. So we want to make sure that we attract them all. And I think the county's already been per se lending Rob to us to help on these projects anyway. So I think that's something we need to consider heavily.
Yeah. Well, again, the county, just for clarity, because
Yeah, they donated.
Dr. Nichols, no. Dr. Nichols made it clear when I took this position, and I completely agree. I have no relationship with Bourbon County. I mean, I was a volunteer over there before. But Rob, other than receiving funds from the county, is not employed by the county or through the county. He doesn't get paid by the county for anything. I just wanted to make sure the people out there know that there is no unified government. There's no city and county. I just want to make sure that people understand we're still the city. They're still the county. Ready Bedco's a separate entity, and it's not what some people might interpret.
I am not a government employee.
And
I'm not
maybe I
employed.
misspoke when I said
No,
the county's
no,
already
yeah.
lending him to us. But
Yeah.
what I'm saying is you've been helping us.
Yes.
Yeah,
Pretty much
we've been
free-
working with the city for several months now on issues such as Eagle Block and some other issues. With,
Yeah, before I came.
Right.
Because I think
Yeah.
as soon as the Eagle Block happened, you came and addressed how you could help possibly.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah, so it's which is fine. I don't mind that at all. I mean,
Well, so
That's where-
the real question is, how much longer can we string out this free service?
about a week. No,
Pretty
I'm
bad.
just kidding.
Yeah, I am too.
I've already asked them to assist us with grants. So we are getting free services now. And so I really hope that this commission would think wholeheartedly into the process when Bob's able to review the contract and see if it's acceptable to all the commissioners.
Sure.
To move forward. So
And you say Bob's going to be out for how long? We don't know yet.
we don't know. I mean, it could be up to 2 weeks.
Okay.
So
Well, even if we have to have it reviewed by maybe a partner of Bob's or something like that, maybe we could reach out to them and have them, do
I like that idea.
Yeah.
I think he has a paralegal there, and I don't know why they couldn't review that.
As long as they get the paperwork to us. I think it's a pretty simple project. I don't think it would be I'm looking at probably 2 pieces of paper. That's about my reading length. So if
It's
we could
longer
do-
than 2 pieces of
Is it?
paper,
Yeah.
but
3.
but the reason why is it goes into detail on what we would provide to the city.
Okay.
Just kind of basically what is expected.
Right.
as
Well, I just think that-
but it's an intergovernmental agreement. So yeah.
I think it's something I'd like to see in front of us as soon as possible. If you could talk to Bob's office and find out if someone could start work on it.
Will do.
Thank you.
We'll get that to Bob's people tomorrow.
Cool. Did you have any more questions, Pete?
No,
Did you have any more questions, Randy?
We're good. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Did you have any questions, McManager?
None at this time.
Okay. Susan? Brad? Nothing, you good? Okay.
All right.
Was there any questions from the audience? Okay. I think that did it just about right. We got 5 minutes till the meeting starts.
Works
That
for
part
me.
of the meeting's adjourned.
Break
Thank you.
time.
Snack time.
Yeah, I do have some.
good, Bub.